Welcome back to the 9th Gym program, and today we're going to continue the Crown Tundra DLC 2 guides with Glastrier. Now this Pokemon I think has astonished everybody as being, one of the best Trick Room sweepers. Yesterday we covered one of the best Trick Room setters, now it's going to be the best Trick Room sweeper. In my opinion, I really like Glastrier a lot. I think it's a very strong Pokemon. Ice typing is kind of bad, but it's good offensively. It is really bad defensively, though, getting 4 weaknesses and only 1 resistance, making it so you can't really switch in on things very comfortably. I mean, it has really good bulk, so it can switch in on, neutral hits, but yeah, you still don't really want to switch into this thing, like, in a weakness attacks with this, just because, it's going to be a sweeper a lot of the time, so you don't want to lose a lot of HP before you Dynamax, but it's still really good. Look at these stats. Like, these stats are insane. Like, such good stats. And it has a great ability. It has its, a signature, new ability, but it's really just Moxie. Whenever you knock out a Pokemon, it gets a +1 in attack, which is really good. Like, it's incredibly good for this Pokemon because, you Dynamax it, Weakness Policy Activate, or Life Orb. You do a lot of damage. I mean, the attack stat is insane. It just looks like it's a really good Pokemon for Trick Room. And I think this is the push that Trick Room needed this format. As far as the stats go, I talked about them so much already. Let's talk about them in depth. HP at 100 is pretty solid, but then defense at 130 and special defense at 110. This thing is incredibly bulky. Mix it with a little bit of investment into HP and Dynamax, and this Pokemon is just taking like 50% damage from super effective max hits. Like, it just doesn't really care that much. It's so bulky. And then it also has access to Max Quake and Max Steelspike, being able to benefit its defense and special defense while benefiting its attack with Chilling Neigh. This Pokemon really just does so much damage and takes so little damage. It's really good. Speaking of doing a lot of damage, that attack stat is monstrous. At 145, this Pokemon is just hitting so hard. It's crazy. And after, even if it gets intimidated, it's still doing a really big damage. And if it kills something or knocks something out, you get Chilling Neigh to activate and then hit boost on Moxie. It's crazy. Or I guess, Chilling Neigh boosted, which is attack boost, which is still really good. Anyway, speed at 30 is really, really low, but makes this guy a Trick Room sweeper. This Pokemon is amazing on every single spectrum of everything except its typing. If it had, a dual typing that made it, less weaknesses, that would be awesome. But, oh well. It's cool. You got a lot of weaknesses, which does actually help with weakness policy. It makes it so you don't even have to set it up yourself. So that's, it can be good. Anyway, that is about it for the overview. Let's go ahead and talk about the VGC build that I have prepared. So I only have one build for this guy today just because I didn't want to change the EV spread. I think I'd use probably the same moves and everything, just a different item. So yeah, we'll talk about it. Weakness policy is the item of choice. You can run self-procking things like Brick Break Dusclops, or you can just rely on your opponent to hit them, hit your Glastrier for 50-40%. And then you're just hitting really hard with weakness policy. If you're slow, then your opponent, well, you are slow. Since it's a slow boy, you can hit your opponent, or your opponent can hit you. Self-proc, weakness policy. I say self-proc, but that's not the definition of self-proc. You can hit your opponent can hit you and proc your weakness policy, and then go to +2, and then just kill everything, which is the plan. Chilling Neigh is its only ability. It's a great ability anyway. As far as moves go, I went with Icicle Crash. It's his best stab physical move. It has high horsepower and heavy slam for Max Steelspike and Max Quake, just to benefit its defenses and offenses, both at the same time with Chilling Neigh and Max moves, and then also protect, just because, it's good. Yeah, I like this Pokemon a lot. I think it's really, really powerful. As far as stats go, EVs, I just went 252 into HP and 252 plus into attack, and then 4 into special defense. I think, it's not really anything wild here. 0 IVs and Brave Nature to give it as slow as possible and as much damage as possible. I don't think this is a crazy build. It's very standard to what we've seen so far. Its build can definitely change some, maximize for the format, but it's just so bulky naturally. Going into HP and attack just makes a lot of sense. Anyway, this Pokemon is a little customizable. There are some good moves and items that you could use otherwise, so let's talk about those. As far as items go, I went with weakness policy. I think it's the best most likely most of the time, but I think you can make a very good case for these other items. Life Orb, just benefiting your attack, so you don't have to self-proc or do anything. You're just naturally 30% stronger. Life Orb is really good. We have Assault Vest, which is always a good option. You know, this Pokemon doesn't care to run for, or it's fine to run 4 attacks. Like, you don't need Protect on this Pokemon because it's so naturally bulky. And then we also have Lumberry as another option, so you don't get burned. But, you know, we also have Tapu Fini to kind of do that, so yeah, I'd probably use an item spot that's a little stronger, but Lumberry is an option if you don't really want to run Fini on your team or anything like that. Anyway, as far as items go, pretty, you know, a good bit of good items. As far as the other attacks go, you could also run Close Combat. I see that a lot. You know, Max Knuckle is really strong. Just Close Combat is good for coverage as well. That's probably the 4th move I'd use if I used Assault Vest or like Choice Band or anything. So yeah, keep that in mind. And then you also get Throat Chop and Lash Out, which are both really cool moves to get. Lash Out could be really interesting because a lot of people are gonna like lead Intimidate into Glastrier if you don't have like, you know, other stuff. But you know, a lot of the time you don't bring Glastrier as lead. It's usually gonna be like after you set Trick Room, you bring this guy in and just kill everything. But still, it's a good option. It gets Iron Defense and Body Press, which I haven't seen anybody using, but I still think that's a cool little thing you can do. And then also Swords Dance as a really strong setup move. So, you know, it has a lot of different options that can be really strong. Just wanted to go ahead and say all those options. As far as synergetic Pokemon go, I added Dusclops. We already talked about that a little bit. It can self-proc weakness policy with Brick Break and set up Trick Room, which is good. Glastrier is always going to be wanting to be in Trick Room, so setting it up with something like Dusclops, Cresselia, P2, any of those Trick Room users, any other Trick Room user really, it just needs to be with a Trick Room user, essentially, because out of Trick Room this thing is not nearly as scary, although it is still like, you know, a force to be reckoned with. And then the other Pokemon here is Tapu Fini. You know, I'm not like doing anything crazy with that, it just makes it so you can't get burned. Which is really good, you know, setting up misty terrain so Glastrier doesn't get burned is not a new mechanic. It's something that, you know, is to be expected of strong physical attackers because burning is really bad. And Dusclops is underspeeding it, so if your opponent has a Dusclops with Will-O-Wisp, they can Will-O-Wisp the Glastrier if they're in Trick Room, so that is a really strong thing you can do. Anyway, that is about it for the VGC portion. Let's go ahead and talk about speed tiers, then damage calcs, then single spotlight. So speed tiers, this Pokemon is on the same speed tier as Snorlax and Amoonguss, usually going to be 0 speed. Snorlax sometimes will have speed, but, you know, Amoonguss is usually 0 speed, all at 31, which is pretty solid. You know, getting outsped by a bunch of things in Trick Room, things like Hatterene, Dusclops, Torkoal, Ferrothorn, Stakataka, however you want to say it, whichever pronunciation is correct. Say it in the comments if you want. Improve the algorithm. Anyway, yeah, that's a lot of things that do underspeed it. What am I stepping on? That's a wrapper. So yeah, there's a lot of things that are underspeeding it, which is really good. You know, well, not really good, but, you know, good for before you set Trick Room. You can attack all those things. So when you're up against, like, really hard Trick Room, running, like, Dusclops, Amoonguss, Hatterene, Ferrothorn kind of things, you can just deny Trick Room potentially, but probably not. But yeah, you also, like, are outsped by a lot of things at 31. You know, Rhyperior, Dragalge, Marowak, Alola, Conkeldurr, Clefairy, Mudsdale, all of these weird 30 to 50, 60 Pokemon. And then you also are outsped by everything. That is crazy. We have a very top-end speed tier now. Right now with a lot of things in that 150 to 200 range. So, you know, setting Trick Room up against those teams, Glastrier kind of just comes in and wreaks havoc. So it's looking pretty good for Glastrier in this format, I think. Anyway, that is about it for speed tiers. Let's talk about damage calcs. So I always like to add the self-proc option first off, just to show how little damage it does. 0 attack Dusclops Brick Break into 252 HP Dynamax Glastrier hits 8 to 10%, which is very, very small, and, you know, very little, you know, recoil, very little downside, with a lot of payoff, doubling your attack, which is really, really strong. So, you know, it's pretty worth it. Anyway, after that is active, you have weakness policies, so +2, max invested Glastrier, max Hailstorm into Zapdos Galar, hitting 173 into 204. This is Dynamaxed Zapdos Galar, super guaranteed OHKO. It's super dead. Even if it's Dynamax, you'd have a chance to kill it. So, you know, doing a lot of damage to great Pokemon like that. Next, we have the +1. So this is +2 from weakness policy, but then intimidated from the Incineroar. Max Quake Dynamaxed Max Quake, and a 236 HP for defense. It's a weird spread, but it leaves a lot of wiggle room because you're hitting 142 to 168, which is guaranteed 2-hit KO. Guaranteed OHKO, mind you. Not a 2-hit KO. I said 2-hit KO. It's a guaranteed OHKO. Good stuff. Incineroar, get out of here. No worries there. Next, we have Metagross Max Steelspike into Dynamax Glastrier. Now, this is a little bit scary, because if it has its weakness policy procced, then they have a 22% chance to OHKO, which is pretty rough. But if they don't have their weakness policy procced and you're in Trick Room, it's not bad because Max Quake does a lot of damage. But still, you have, I just wanted to show how bulky this thing is. I mean, even if they're hitting just a natural Max Steel Spike, not +2, they're only doing 44 to 52%. This is one of the most menacing Pokemon in the format right now, Metagross, and, like, its biggest attack towards Glastrier only does, like, around 50%. That's really good for Glastrier. Next, we have Zapdos Galar, Intimidated, so it's Dynamaxed. Even if it was +2, it wouldn't be taking an OHKO. But if it was, Intimidated so that it got the +1, and then Max Knuckle or Close Combat from +1, still doesn't OHKO the Dynamax Glastrier. So, we see a lot of really good damage calcs here, defensively and offensively. This thing deals so much damage and takes so little damage. It really is just like a monster in Trick Room. It's like one of the best Trick Room Pokemon that we've ever gotten, I would say, because it's just so strong in Trick Room. Anyway, that is it for Glastrier. Also, like, non-restricted. Like, obviously, the restricted Pokemon are pretty insane, but, that's to be expected. Anyway, Glastrier. Single Spotlight. I didn't really do much. I just added a Close Combat instead of Protect, and then added Choice Band for Single Spotlight. But yeah, the idea is just Choice Band, chilling Neigh, doing a lot of damage. You just hit them with really strong attacks, and then you can switch out. You could also be a Swords Dance Life Orb build. That's another option that Glastrier has. Maybe it has rocks. I don't think it does. I'm kind of curious. Does it get Stealth Rocks? No, it doesn't. Okay. Yeah. It's really, like, I don't know. It's just, like, strong in singles. You're not going to be using it too much in singles probably, just because, like, it's low speed and the, the potency of Trick Room is much, much lower. So, like, just the payoff is, like, terrible compared to VGC. But, like, it's still an option. Glastrier is definitely, like, it does a lot of damage and super bulky. And it's Ice type, which, like, is strong this format for, offensive, with things like Lando and the birds and stuff going around. So, yeah, I still think it's an option in Single Spotlight. Anyway, that is about it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did watch it and enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe. Makes a huge difference. Join the Patreon, follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, all those things. All those links will be down in the description down below. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to the patrons. So yeah, have a good weekend. It's almost a weekend. Have a good weekend and good week next week, because the next week is going to be maybe scary. Who knows? Anyway, thanks for watching. Goodbye.